In the competitive landscape of youth basketball in the United States, not all participants start from the same baseline. Socioeconomic factors play a pivotal role in determining who gets to access resources, opportunities, and ultimately success in the sport. While it is evident that youth from higher socioeconomic backgrounds have greater access to resources and opportunities in basketball, this advantage is compounded over time, creating a widened gap in skill development, exposure, and ultimately representation at advanced levels of the sport. This disparity is further influenced by intersecting factors such as race, geographic location, and access to networks, which collectively shape the landscape of youth basketball in the USA. A comprehensive study from the Center of Child Health, Behavior, and Development, Seattle Children's Research Institute, has shed light on this issue, revealing that children from low affluent families engage in fewer days of physical activity per week, have less diversity in the sports they try, and overall exhibit lower rates of participation in organized sports compared to the peers from higher socioeconomic backgrounds. These disparities are not just numbers, they represent real barriers to participation. High costs, lack of transportation, and a sense of exclusion from team environments are significantly more reported by children from less affluent families. This not only limits their current engagement in sports, but also affects their long-term development and opportunities within the sport of basketball. The statistics are telling. Children from low affluent backgrounds report lower rates of ever having played organized sports at 63%, compared to 79% and 80% for their medium and higher affluent peers, respectively. The impact of socioeconomic status on youth sports participation is quantifiable and profound. Also, the likelihood of meeting physical activity recommendations starkly contrasts across socioeconomic lines. High affluent middle schoolers are 3 times more likely to meet these recommendations than their low affluent counterparts, a disparity that extends into high school sports participation. In this same article, there's a study about the Seattle King County Advisory Board, which systematically examines barriers to organized sports participations among youth in grades 5 through 12 from King County, Washington. By analyzing responses from 1,038 participants through a comprehensive survey, it shows the disparities in physical activity and sports participation linked to socioeconomic status, race, geographic location, and access to networks. The finding reveals that children from higher socioeconomic backgrounds enjoy greater access to sports resources and opportunities, including basketball, which significantly influences their skill development, exposure, and representation at advanced levels. This advantage is compounded by intersecting factors from like race and geographic location, as everything is connected. The study's analysis uses regression models and stakeholder insights, which provide lenses through which to understand and address the landscape of disparities in youth basketball. The comprehensive study from the Center of Child Health, Behavior, and Development at Seattle's Children's Research Institute, supported by insights from the State of Play, Seattle King County Advisory Board, casts a spotlight that shows the disparities within youth basketball in the U.S. By unveiling the stark contrast in access to resources and participation rates among youth from varying socioeconomic backgrounds, the research shows how advantages tied to wealth, race, and location are not merely incidental, but systematically compound over time, which is exacerbated by the divide in skill development and representation at the higher levels of the sports, which we'll be talking about later. These findings, derived by the 1,038 youth participants and employed regression models from nuanced analysis, highlight a pressed need for targeting intervention. By addressing these barriers, financial constraints to lack of inclusive environments, we'll have a crucial work that paves the way for reshaping the future of youth basketball. The disparities in youth basketball reflect a systematic issue deeply embedded within socioeconomic structures that favor the affluent, thereby marginalizing those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Jeffrey Osacha research provides a very important academic insight into this phenomenon, illustrating how high school sports often reinforce societal inequalities. Sasha's study discusses the contrast in sports experiences among high school students across different socioeconomic, racial, and educational spectrums. He found that students at affluent institutions, such as College Prep High, enjoy access to state of the art facilities and consistent high quality coaching, luxuries that remain out of the reach for many of the counterparts in less affluent schools. This disparity extends beyond immediate experiences, significantly impacting these athletes long term and even impacts their exposure to higher competitive play. The research further reveals how socioeconomic status shapes athletic identities among high school students, segregating them into categories like scholar athlete at affluent schools and D1 hopefuls in under-resourced schools. And this can be found in a survey that was conducted by Sasha for 452 students. These labels not only reflect their current sports participation, but also influence their future aspirations and potential paths within sports. Interestingly, Sasha's findings highlight the dual role of sports in the lives of students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds as a potential avenue for life improvement and as a source of pressure and expectation. This role complicates the narrative of sports as not just some simple fun thing to do, but as something that's super important to the participants' life. He also critically questions the role of sports as an equalizer in educational inequality. His evidence suggests that instead of leveling the playing field, sports participation often exacerbates socioeconomic disparities, challenging the view that sports alone can rectify deep-seated inequalities. His research also underscores the necessity for the comprehensive approach to address disparities in youth sports participation, one that goes beyond improving access to resources and opportunities. It calls for a critical examination of the socioeconomic structures that sustain privilege and reinforce marginalization. It is clear from Sasha's research that the difference in sports between a higher socioeconomic place versus a lower socioeconomic place is vast. It is clear that in a lower socioeconomic high school that sports are put more to get a higher degree in learning, and it's more a kill or be killed type of mindset. To elaborate off of this, a kill or be killed mindset compared to someone that's in a private school is vastly different. Because the thing is, with someone from a private school, they have all the safety nets in the world to be successful as they continue throughout their lives. Someone that is not as socioeconomically viable may only have this route to be successful to get a higher education. This not only puts more pressure on the player, but it also, again, creates a disparity because this is a whole another aspect of the sport that increases the difficulty in becoming Division I. And while transitioning to the collegiate level, his exploration into the backgrounds of Division I basketball players reveals a telling statistic as well. A significant majority come from affluent backgrounds or private institutions. This finding directly supports the earlier claim, showing how socioeconomic advantages not only facilitates better access to resources and opportunities, but also shows the influence long-term for the outcomes in sports. Athletes from wealthier backgrounds are more likely to have the necessary support systems and exposure to excel at higher levels of competition within basketball, which further widens the opportunity gap between them and the athletes from less affluent backgrounds because they might not have these same support systems or access to level of play. This pattern of privilege again reinforces the systematic barriers faced by athletes from lower socioeconomic statuses, which again limit their exposure and opportunities. The work sheds a light on the importance of recognizing and addressing these disparities to make sure that that youth sports is more inclusive of an environment, even though clearly it is not and driven by money. In this exact same study, Sasha delves even deeper and finds that an overwhelming 75% of D1 basketball players that he found, which was about 300, originate from either private schools or counties that are ranked within the top 20% of wealth nationwide. This quantifiable evidence highlights the disparity in opportunities available in young athletes based on their socioeconomic standing. His findings serve as a potent illustration for privilege and its pipeline, where access to premium sports facilities, coaching, and exposure are granted for people in wealthier backgrounds, and as a result, cause them to succeed more. This disproportionate representation of affluent youth in collegiate basketball again shows a broader societal imbalance where economic privileges translate directly into competitive advantage and increased opportunities for advancement. These concrete numbers show the argument that the competitive landscape of youth in collegiate basketball is deeply influenced by socioeconomic factors. And again, socioeconomic factors are very much intertwined to geographic and racial backgrounds as well, which again can prove my point. This compelling statistic narrative reinforces the urgent need for systematic changes. In conclusion, the research offers a sobering yet vital perspective on the dynamics of sports between higher and lower affluent high schools. Lower affluent high schools make it seem like this may be your only way out, which can put added pressure for these athletes compared to those who are from higher socioeconomic backgrounds. So, what exactly does all this research from Jeffrey say? Well, the data unveils a profound insight into the world of basketball, suggesting that, again, access and success within the sport are considerably influenced by socioeconomic factors. The overwhelming representation of athletes from affluent backgrounds or private institutions in Division I basketball again shows a systematic disparity, challenging the notion of sports as a level playing field. This pattern highlights a privilege pipeline, if you will, where resources, coaching, and opportunities are disproportionately available to those from wealthier families, perpetuating a cycle that favors economic privilege over pure talent. The disparities evident in youth sports as a whole reflect an unjust system where the playing field is far from fair, emphasizing how socioeconomic status can unfairly predetermine opportunities and success even from an early age. A good case study about someone who knows college basketball and recruitment as a whole is my former high school basketball coach. His name is Chris Johnson, and the way that I compiled information from him was actually over a call on Instagram. He provides a unique perspective because he also was not of high socioeconomic standing in his youth, which he discusses hindered him from actually getting a Division I offer or even a better Division II offer. In my conversations with my coach, a detail of his journey stood out, providing an important insight into the challenges faced by athletes from undeserved backgrounds. He was a promising Division II basketball player from South San Diego, a region which is known for its socioeconomic challenges. Despite his talent and hard work, his collegiate journey was cut short due to a deeply personal struggle. He shared with me that the transition to college was overwhelming. The distance from his family and the community that shaped him proved to be too much. Ultimately, he made the difficult decision to drop out, a choice that was influenced not just by emotional factors, but the realities of his socioeconomic status. This aspect of Coach's story shows the broader issue within the realm of collegiate athletics. Athletes from lower socioeconomic backgrounds often face unique challenges that are not purely athletic in nature. The psychological and emotional toll of such a significant life transition can again make it even worse by the financial and social pressures that accompany their socioeconomic status. The experience of my coach shows that the need for comprehensive support systems within collegiate athletic programs. These systems must address not only the physical yet technical aspects of athlete development, but also the socio-emotional and economic realities of students from areas like South San Diego. And again, this may not be an issue if he is higher socioeconomic standing, because he probably already has the support systems in place and is already used to the type of environment that better programs provide with you. And one other thing mentioned is that he hardly ever had scouts come to his games, and he had to send emails of his mixtapes to Division II schools to finally get looked at, even though he was putting up Division I level averages. He averaged 24 points in Division II basketball, which is a very hard competition and is very impressive. Despite this, he never got recruited organically. Eventually, he got his Division II roster spot because of his extra hard work, and that was the only thing he could do to earn his spot. His journey from a hopeful college athlete to dropping out due to a lack of readiness to be away from his family speaks volumes about the intersection of sports, economic status, and personal development. It highlights a critical area of concern: the need of institutions for having holistic support for those who are lower socioeconomically, especially because they may not be used to it compared to those who are higher socioeconomically. My coach's story is a vivid illustration of how socioeconomic factors significantly impact an athlete's journey in basketball, echoing the broader claim of their influence on access, opportunities, and success within the sport. Despite demonstrating Division I caliber talent with an impressive average of 24 points, his path was obstructed by the invisible barriers erected by socioeconomic status. This is a compelling testament to the fact that talent alone is insufficient in the face of socioeconomic and structural inequalities that shape the landscape of youth basketball. The impact of socioeconomic status on sports participation, including basketball, is also significant to athletes all around the world. Studies such as the Wellscapes project in rural communities have shown that children from lower socioeconomic backgrounds are less likely to participate in youth sports compared to their affluent peers, and this is a study done from Australia. This disparity is attributed to the financial constraints that limit access to essential resources such as training, equipment, and travel opportunities for competitions. The implications for these findings are quite clear. That again, we are leading back to the same conclusion that socioeconomic challenges act as a hindrance, preventing talented individuals from fully engaging and benefiting from sports, like basketball in particular. In a broader context, research conducted in Norway among adolescents reveals a similar pattern, with family economic well-being being a crucial role in determining levels of physical activity and sports participation. Adolescents from economically disadvantaged backgrounds reported a lower level of engagement in sports, suggesting that economic barriers extend beyond rural America to affect sports participation globally. This trend likely impacts basketball players in these regions when the costs of participating in organized sports programs are very expensive. The lack of access to these programs not only stifles potential talent development, but also limits the opportunities for athletes to be scouted by colleges, professional teams, and more. In the competitive arena of youth basketball in the U.S., the playing field is, of course, tilted, significantly affecting access to basketball's resources, opportunities, and pathways to success. The case of my former high school basketball coach who struggled to make a leap in Division I basketball due to economic barriers illustrates the personal impact of these systematic issues. His experiences, characterized by lack of exposure to scouts and the necessity of self-promotion despite impressive performance, reflects a broader trend documented in these studies. And then research findings from rural communities to global contexts again reveal the disparities in sports participation rates, again showing how athletes from lower socioeconomic backgrounds face significant hurdles. These barriers are not limited to financial constraints and lack of quality training, but extend to limit competitive exposure, which is crucial for advancement in basketball. If you don't play good competition, you're not going to get good yourself. Such systematic disadvantages ensure that the gap in skill development, exposure, and representation at higher levels of sport only widens over time. This, again, is proven by Jeffrey Osash's study, which again says that 75% of D1 basketball players originate from private schools or countries ranked within the top 20 counties within the top 20% of wealth nationwide. The landscape of youth basketball in the U.S., as shaped by these socioeconomic factors, shows the pressing issue: the inherent disadvantage of those from higher socioeconomic backgrounds which is compounded over time, leading to a widening gap in opportunities and success in the sport. This reality is highlighted by the evidence and research, as well as personal case studies presented. Instead, this reveals a complex interplay of socioeconomic factors that show the trajectory of youth athletes' careers in basketball, which again emphasizes the barriers for these players and shows the need for acknowledgement and understanding within the sports for equality. The commercialization of sports, evident in the data in this video, shows a broader trend where financial interests overshadow the foundational values of fairness and accessibility. This focus on profit not only prioritizes those with access to better resources and opportunities, reflecting a profit-driven approach that exacerbates existing socioeconomic disparities, but also challenges the integrity of sports as an equitable platform for talent. As a result, the operational strategies within sports, increasingly influenced by monetary considerations, again compromise the essence of competition, revealing a system where economic gain significantly impacts the landscape of opportunities and success for athletes.